crafty friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you're here to spend some time with me today. I am making a little technique album for myself, and I'm using one of these little photo album things, and it's got 48 pages. I bought a set of 12 of these on Amazon, and I used a bunch of them a couple years ago to make some like family cookbooks with my favorite recipes in them, and of course I decorated them with stamping and pretty papers, and then I gave them to my kids for Christmas, and I was excited because my son really liked it. He apparently showed it off to his friends because he's got some pretty crafty friends, so he wanted to impress them, and I was excited about that. I don't know if he's actually cooked any. I know my daughter's cooked some, but I was excited about that. So I will decorate the cover. These all slide out here. Here's some technique things I've already started, you can see, and I just have to do the instructions. Now I'm doing instruction sheets, so I thought I would put these up on my blog at stampingimperfection.com, and it will have the instructions that you can just cut out with your trimmer. I'm only going to do one per page because I'll do them like one at a time. And you can cut inside or outside the black line. That's totally up to you. I'm going to try to use the same template for every one, so hopefully that will work out. And if you want to retype them yourself, feel free to do that. You're certainly welcome to do that. But yeah, I'm not doing anything fancy here, or you can just print them out and put them in a binder. But what I like about this is that I'll have the written instructions to remind myself how to do it, and I'm going to have a stamped instruction. Here's what I'm doing. I've cut down some Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to attach this to one side. I'm attaching mine to the right side because I'm left-handed, so I'll stamp on this side. So I'm just going to add this. I'm going to add mine with glue because it is humid where I live, and snail doesn't always, like the tape runners don't always work great. Like they might work great at first, but they don't always stick for the long haul, so I really like my glue here. Okay, so I'm going to put this down, and I've got a border around it. Like I said, you can cut that off. I was just trying to make it easier to cut nicely. There you go. And it's good, like I find it's good for me to practice on my trimmer, trying to get close to a line, because then I get better at my trimmer when I do stuff like that. Okay, so here's how to do this. So the first technique I'm sharing is coloring your stamps with your Stampin' Write markers. These are dye markers. This is dye ink, which is a water-based ink, and this works with these kinds of markers. So any dye-based ink markers, like Marvy makes them, Tombow makes them. I think these probably will work with the old distress markers if you have those as well. Now you know your marker comes with a brush tip, which is the bolder line, and it shows you a picture of the brush end, and it comes with a fine tip where it shows you the fine line, so you know which end you're going for. I always use the brush end, and I always use the side of my marker, that brush tip, and like this is one great way to add multiple colors to your stamp. Now I don't usually do it with the photopolymer. In fact, I've only ever done it with, so this is a total experiment for me, and I'm just coloring on top of the flower part here. Okay, so we'll see how this works on the photopolymer. actually, because I tried it once on some acrylic stamps and it didn't work great for me. I was very disappointed. So I'm just going on and I'm using the side. So you can see I'm coloring with the side. You don't want to do this because it will actually damage the tip of your marker. Now, usually you start with, or you should always start with the lighter of your two colors. And I started with my Melon Mambo because I figured pink will be lighter than green. And I usually do that because then I don't get darker ink on a lighter marker. And you can, like, if you do accidentally get a little, like, of the wrong color ink on, then just, you know, take it to a piece of scrap paper and just ink it off. So once I do this, I give it a good huff, like that, and then I take it to my paper and I stamp like I normally would. Now I usually make sure I press the whole thing just like this, and this works beautifully with red rubber stamps. It didn't work great with acrylic stamps, and maybe it was just the brand of acrylic, but these are photopolymer and they're pretty high quality photopolymer. Make sure you're not rocking it back and forth. And then when you stamp, it does definitely work a little better. The colors are a little bolder with the rubber stamps, I think, but this is really pretty. Like, it's so nice to be able to get two different colors. You could use more than two if you wanted to, but I really like this. I call this a direct to stamp coloring technique with my marker. So this is a perfect marker technique, and it doesn't work with alcohol markers. Like, I've always been told that you should not use alcohol markers on your rubber stamps or your photopolymer stamps. I'm not sure if they damage the stamps or if they just don't work on it, but I've never done it because I've been told by multiple people. So I'm not going to mess around with that. Okay, so that's that. So that's the first technique that I wanted to share. So for the second marker technique that I want to share with you, this is called thumping, and this is a really great way to add lighter and darker colors in the same image. So I can actually get a little bit of color variation in my stamping using this technique, and I love this technique. I think it's actually really fun, super simple, and I always am happy with the results in the end. For this one, I'm going to use the Spotlight on Nature. I just wanted to play with this. I can't get enough of this stamp set. I wasn't going to buy it, and I bought it. I added it to my cart at the last minute, and it's one of my happiest purchases. For the first one that I did the direct to stamp coloring, I used the stamp from the Love This Moment set. So here you can see me doing this on one of the cling stamps. This is the red rubber. Stampin' Up! Really has spectacular red rubber stamps. So this, I'm going to move this down, there you go. And again, you can get these printables. I already attached the printable for this one, cut it down and attached it to a piece of cardstock cut at 4 by 6 inches because that's what my album is. And I'm starting with my lightest color. I have 2 shades of green and 2 shades of blue here, and I'm going to use, this is Lost Lagoon because I have this. What is this one? This is Pool Party. I think I'm going to stick with Lost Lagoon. Hopefully this will be light enough. So again, I'm just adding color just like I did before with the side of the brush tip, like that. And I'm just going to add it to all of the flowers. Okay, and then I'm going to take my darker blue shade, this is Night of Navy, and I will put flicks if I know there are places that I want it, and I know that I want some of the darker at the base here. But the other thing you can do is just thump this around the stamp in a couple spots, just like that. And again, I'm using the edge of the brush tip. I'm going to do the same thing with the greens. And the markers will actually stay wet for a pretty long time. Like, it's a surprising amount of time. And you do want to always do that huff of breath before you stamp them, because that really does make a difference. And again, I'm going to put this, that was Old Olive. This is Garden Green. I tried Mossy Meadow on top of the Old Olive, and I'll do a little bit of thumping on the tops and maybe in a couple spots on the stems. There we go, just plunk, plunk, plunk. I'm going to give this a huff. Couple of huffs because it's a big stamp. And then I'm going to stamp this down. And again, don't rock the block, but I am pushing on all parts of it. And I do leave, when I stamp, I do leave my stamp connected to my paper for a few seconds and then pick it up. And so pretty, such a pretty result. And it's hard to see, I think, the variation. Like, I feel like I notice the variation in color more when I use a bigger contrast between, like if I had maybe a balmy blue and a navy blue. Let me try that. Let me show you that one. Here's one I did yesterday. This was with balmy blue and navy blue. And this was Old Olive and Mossy Meadow. And you can see the difference a bit more between those colors than these colors. So it's so pretty. Isn't it pretty? I just love this technique. And it's such a quick and easy way to get multiple colors on your stamp using the markers. And you can really see the difference in color here with these two. Super pretty. Okay, so then again, I'm just sliding them into my little album here, and that is that. So, you know, I'll have, when I'm done, I'll have quite a few techniques in there, because how many times have you seen a technique on YouTube or at a class, and then you try it, you love it, you do it a few times, and then a year or two later, you see it again, you think, oh, I love that technique, but I forgot about it. So like that to me is the reason that I love to, I really wanted to make myself one of these little albums. And I had a little album years ago, but then I moved and I have no idea where that little album ended up. All right, next technique. So for the next technique, you need a clear block. I'm going to use a smaller one for this technique. After I'm done, I'll show you a card I made using this technique with a larger block. So sometimes I use an even smaller block and do this like multiple times on a paper. My favorite time of year to use this technique is in the fall. I love to use this with silhouette stamps. And I think you just get really beautiful backgrounds. This is a great background technique. I always call this clear block stamping, but I just really always love the results of this. Now, you do need to have some kind of spritzer or water bottle. I'm using a Stampin' spritzer. It just needs to have water in it. I like the Stampin' spritzer because I get a nice fine mist of water. If you add too much water, it's going to be really runny and messy, but sometimes I like that look. So, you know, if that's what you're going for, that's what that's what you want to do. So I'm going to take 2 colors here and potentially 3, I guess. You can do as many as you want. I'm just going to do 2 to show you the technique. And again, start with your lightest color. I don't think either one of these is necessarily lighter than the other, but I will start with this is Lost Lagoon, Again, I'm using the side of my marker. I'm using the side edge of my marker. I don't want to do this with these techniques because that really will damage the tip of my marker. And if I want to do some coloring with that tip, I want it to be in pretty good shape when I do that. So I'm just coloring this. I'm just kind of scribbling it on to the clear block. And then I'm sure that I have other videos with all these techniques in them. This is the garden green. And like I said, you can do as many colors as you like. I love doing this with fall colors, Cajun craze, crushed curry, a little bit of red, or a brown. It's super fun. Okay, so I'm going to move my papers out of the way here, and then I'm just going to give this enough water to kind of cover. That was 3 spritz, which is a little too much. Let's see how this comes out. And just hold that on there for a minute. It was a little wet. You can see the water's kind of pooling in a couple places. That's okay. Now you have to let this dry. Okay, so you want to set it aside. You can use your heat tool to actually get that to dry as well. But I usually just let it dry. This has some nice edges on it, I think. This one came out with really interesting edges. It's never going to be perfect, okay? Like you can see some of the green bled up there. I love the look. It's a great, quick and easy little watercolor technique. And my favorite thing to stamp over the top of this is a black outline image like this. Here's a card I created yesterday with that Spotlight on Nature stamp that I just used in the last technique. And I used the larger block. I used this block here. This is the size E, and you can get a really nice big part of your card. And I did this one on watercolor paper just for fun. You can do it. I did it on cardstock here, so this is perfectly fine. And I'll let that dry, and you can stamp right over the top of that. But how pretty is that? It's so simple, and you get this really interesting background that looks like you did some great watercolor technique. And really, the clear block with that spritzed water on that marker ink actually did all the work. So this is still wet, so I'm not going to put that into my album. But here you can see I did this with a couple different I was experimenting yesterday, and I did this with a couple different colors. I think this is Old Olive and Night of Navy, and with this one I used 2 or 3 squirts of the Stampin' spritzer. I really like this little Stampin' spritzer. I also have this giant bottle of water with a nice spray nozzle on it, and I did it with this one first, and just 2 squirts of water. This, you really get a lot with this one. Really was way too much water. So that Stampin' spritzer gives you a much nicer little, like a gentle mist, and it's just the right amount to do this technique. So it's really fun, and like I said, you can make some really pretty stamped cards with it. I love this for sympathy cards because I think that black silhouette image is super pretty. So I hope you'll give this a try, and I hope you will follow along as I make my my little photo album here. Like I said, I got 12 of these for not too much money, and I've got lots of project ideas for these kinds of things, including making a recipe card holder with recipes on for your kids, and you can use pretty papers. I'm going to add some pretty paper to this one. I just haven't done that yet. And you can add pretty papers, and you can do some stamping on those recipe cards, or you can embellish this like you would pocket cards. You can use pocket cards, or you can use die cuts or little things that you've stamped or colored, and add them as decoration to that, and your kids will love it. Like, my kids definitely loved it. And again, if you want these printables, you can get them on my blog at stampingimperfection.com. I will put the link below. And so far you will find the clear block stamping, the direct to stamp coloring, and the thumping technique, which are all die-based marker techniques. So I hope you enjoyed that. And thanks for watching. And next week I'll have a different set of marker, or not necessarily marker techniques, but card making techniques, and all of these work in your scrapbooks and your traveler's notebooks too, friends. So for whatever paper projects you have, you can use these techniques. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you find time to be creative. Please give this video a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications whenever I upload a new video. And you can shop online with me at shopwithkim.net. Thanks for watching.